Whether you're designing a medical device or developing a smartphone app, it takes a certain quality to turn your bright idea into a moneymaker. That's why more and more colleges are experimenting with courses in entrepreneurship. And there's a renewed debate over how best to teach it. Bill Aulett is a senior lecturer at the MIT Sloan School of Management and the managing director of the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship. He's also the author of Disciplined Entrepreneurship, 24 Steps to a Successful Startup. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Emily.
So one of the first things I really associate with entrepreneurship is a big personality, a quirky personality, somebody who's really got showmanship qualities. How do you teach that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I wrote this article called the 7 Whopping Lies That Are Told About Entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs sometimes tell about themselves, and that's one of them, is that entrepreneurs are kind of these crazy, kind of charismatic people. And the data does not bear that out. First of all, the data bears out that entrepreneurship is not a solo sport, it's a team sport. And building your team is one of the most important things you can do. And that people think, well, entrepreneurs love risk. They love risk. Well, that's just not true. I mean, entrepreneurs know how to manage risk effectively and how to do it. I'm an entrepreneur many times, and many of my friends are. The last thing I would do is go to a casino. That makes no sense to me. You don't have control over it.
I'm with you.
And so what you do, and it was interesting, I had this panel on the MIT blackjack team. And you would think that those people liked risk. And the point is, no, they didn't.
No, that's why they did it off of the science.
Right, exactly.
They read the cards.
And those people, by the way, you think, well, they just like numbers, so they all became hedge fund managers. Not true. Most of them became entrepreneurs because they figured out how to do that. They like to work in a team. So the concept that an entrepreneur is this charismatic person that knows how to sell stuff, that likes risk, not true. And that's really, frankly, the name for my book is Disciplined Entrepreneurship. But people say that's an oxymoron. And in fact, it's not true at all. You have to kind of think about things differently. That's one thing. You have to have the spirit of entrepreneur. We call that the spirit of a pirate. But you have to have the execution skills of a Navy SEAL when you look at it. And that's what, when you read the book about Steve Jobs, you see, if all the fish are swimming this way, he's willing to swim that way. But once he swims that way, he does it with extraordinary precision. So they're not crazy.
I want to put up a couple of graphs from the Kauffman Foundation that kind of show how this has grown in colleges. When you look 1975 to 2006, I mean, it's grown exponentially, 500 times over. But if you look at the flip side of that, the number of new businesses started in the same period of time, it's about even. Why is that? What you would think, if colleges are teaching so many entrepreneurship programs, that there would be a lot of new startup businesses.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, as we say at MIT, you have to define your terms. I mean, what is entrepreneurship? And there are 2 types of entrepreneurs. They're what we call SMEs, small, medium enterprise entrepreneurs, who build a small company. That might be a pizza parlor, a nail salon, a local service company. And then the other hand is innovation-driven entrepreneurship, who start a company to go after a global market, a much bigger market. This is what generates high numbers of jobs. And you don't need a lot of those to do that. But just a small number of companies, the companies that are small are going to stay small. Those are good. We need them in our economy. But that's different. These are 2 different types of entrepreneurship. And now when you look at how entrepreneurship is taught, that number scares me when all of a sudden you see 500 people teaching it, because it's not easy to teach entrepreneurship. It can be taught, but it's not easy.
I'm sure everybody wants it, too.
Oh,
actually, and on that quote, we have a little quote from somebody, a professor of entrepreneurship with Forbes, and here's how he describes teaching it. He says, entrepreneurship educators actually practice what we preach by continuously trying new things in the classroom. We take a small risk on something new. If it works, we continue to use it. If not, we pivot and try something new. Does that sound right to you?
Well, that's true, but when you want to teach something, and when all of a sudden the people in the population, as opposed to being kind of a rounding error, when I graduated from college in 1980, nobody wanted to be an entrepreneur. You wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, go work in a big company. Today, over 20% of the young people, over 25% in most studies, want to be entrepreneurs. And you can't just, experiment and try different things. We need to have a body of knowledge about this. We need to think about entrepreneurship as a profession, like we do about being a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, an economist. there's something you need to learn to do that, and that's what we need to get that body of knowledge.
Because a lot of people, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but entrepreneurship is also associated with, I want to get rich quick.
Yeah.
And so kids are looking at, Mark Zuckerberg and other people who've been associated with these great new startup things and thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur like that.
Yeah, well, if you want to get rich, there are a lot of other ways to get rich, and this is not the easiest one to do that. It just turns out that if you are passionate about it, so the misperception that you had is absolutely correct, but when you sit down with entrepreneurs and you start talking to them, if you're motivated by the money, it's not going to work. You have to believe what I am doing to empower women in Africa is I'm going to fight my way through this because this is a bigger cause, because it's really, really hard to do it. So the money happens, but it's kind of after the fact, it's a second order rather than the first order is, I want to start a company, I'm passionate about what I'm doing, I really want to solve this problem.
Any big success stories in your classrooms now?
Yeah, well, in the last section with Kara, you just saw with Kara, what you just saw was the Rest Devices is one.
Really?
That whole industry, they're talking about Fitbit, was started by someone named Julia Hu out of our classroom and her team at Lark. We have HubSpot, which is going to be a multi-billion-dollar company. We have a company called Okta that does cloud stuff out on the West Coast. And we have a whole bunch more. One, Loku, which was just bought by GoDaddy, was in our classroom 2 years ago.
All right.
So,
Bill Olet, thanks for that.
Thank you very much.